This is the new Audi Q4 e-tron, and just to illustrate how quickly the electric car revolution is moving, the German manufacturer is expecting this car to be its second biggest seller next year in the UK, behind only the Audi A3, and this is just one of 12 electric Audis we'll see by 2025. But those sales won't happen without a great product, and in this review we're telling you everything you need to know about the Q4. Before we start, hit the subscribe button and don't forget, go to whatcar.com to get a great deal on your next car. So in Audi's lineup, you've got the e-tron, which is the large fully electric SUV. You've also got the e-tron GT, which is the much sportier fully electric car. But this Q4 e-tron is really Audi's first shot at mainstream EV success. Not that you describe it as cheap, but clearly the pricing is going to appeal to a bigger audience than those much more expensive cars in its lineup. And under the skin, it is very, very closely related to the Skoda Enyaq and the VW ID.4, which is a pretty good starting point because we've already seen that those are two impressive electric cars. So what's Audi's spin on those ingredients? Well, from a distance, the proportions, the kind of silhouette, is fairly similar to those two electric cars, but up close, obviously it has a completely different look. So at the end of this short bonnet, you've got this massive closed off grille at the front, which on the higher trim levels, you can actually black this out. You've also got two fake air vents either side of it. And for the alloys, there's a choice of 19-inch alloys or these 20-inch alloys, plus there are 21-inch alloys as well. At the back of the car, you've got a full width light bar, and actually the LEDs at the front, you can program a few different light signatures for them. Plus, you can buy the Q4 e-tron as a sportback, which basically gives it a more coupe look at the back here, and it lowers the ride height by 18mm. It certainly isn't similar to the ID.4 and the Enyaq inside in terms of the layout though. It's got a typical new Audi look inside here. But something that's new for Audi as a brand is this steering wheel that the Q4 e-tron gets with this kind of weird squared off look to it. And it also has touch sensitive controls, which we first saw with the ID.3 and the ID.4, and really, just like in those cars, in the Q4 e-tron, they're really frustratingly easy to accidentally be turning things on with. So that's annoying that that's there. And in a kind of similar way, they've got a touchpad for the volume dial down here, which we first saw in the A3. And it's just a bit kind of fiddly and awkward to use. And surely took more work to design and implement this than it would just sticking a sticky outy normal physical dial on it, which would have been easier to use. Anyway, the touchscreen infotainment system is good. You get a 10.1-inch or 11.6-inch screen, depending on what trim you go for, and it's a typical new Audi infotainment system. It's got a reasonably responsive screen, impressive graphics, simple layout. You get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto as standard, and it's definitely better than what you get in the Enyaq and light years ahead of the ID.4, but it isn't quite so good as what you get in the BMW iX3 because that system has a rotary dial, which means it's a little bit easier to use that while you're driving. Something new in the Q4 e-tron is an augmented reality head-up display, which acts like a normal head-up display, so it will show the speed you're traveling as if it's projected onto the road in front of you. But the augmented reality bit basically then adds sat-nav directions or safety warnings, again, as if they're directly projected onto the road in front of you. Now, you get all that as part of the technology pack or as standard on Vorsprung trim. But you can see that in order to have such a big head-up display unit, they've got this massive hole in the dashboard here, and then incorporating that into the layout and the design means that you are actually staring at quite a lot of dashboard from the driver's seat from here to the windscreen. But really, the driving position is good in the Q4 e-tron. Loads of adjustment available in the seat and also in the steering wheel too. The visibility is pretty good. These pillars are quite thick, but it's really helpful having this extra bit of glass there, actually. And the door mirrors are really big as well. Plus, you get a 10.25-inch digital driver display as standard. There's a good amount of storage up front in the Q4 e-tron as well. So because you've got this kind of floating center console thing with the gear selector on it, underneath it, you've got more storage here where the wireless phone charging is as well. And you can also leave your smartphone docked down there. Plus there's a couple of cup holders along with a pretty deep central cubby here. And this armrest you can actually slide forwards or back. Plus, the door bins are just about thick enough to take a water bottle, and actually on top of the doors, really helpfully down here, you've got another space to keep your water bottle. In terms of the quality in the Q4 e-tron, well, it's got a premium look and it does have a relatively premium feel as well. So yes, there are a lot of plastics around, but they're good quality plastics, and the build quality is quite impressive as well. So it does feel quite robust in here. But it should be said that the Q4 e-tron, like lots of other new Audis that we've tried recently, their interiors just aren't quite so good as Audi interiors from a few years ago. So that is a shame. But the fact is that by the standards of the class today, this is still a pretty decent interior. As the Q4 name suggests, this car is sized between the Q3 and the Q5, so it isn't small. And back here, it does feel pretty spacious. You've got loads of leg room, headroom is good too, and for the record, this driver's seat is in my driving position. I'm just under 6 foot, and it does feel really spacious. You've got big windows too, plus, just like the ID4 and the Enyaq, you've got a flat floor here. So if you're sitting 3 adults side by side back here, this is good for that. And unsurprisingly, the space is very similar to what you get in the Enyaq and the ID4 as well. But 40-20-40 split folding rear seats don't come as standard, and we haven't got them on this model. Plus, we haven't even got an armrest or a cup holder to fold down from there either. But what every Q4 e-tron does get is the helpful bottle holder that it also has in the front. The Q4 e-tron matches the Q5 for boot space with 520 litres, and you can see that it's a really big, practical amount of space that you're given back here. There's also really good underfloor storage where you can put the charging cables. You can even fit the parcel shelf at the bottom there, which is particularly handy. There's also these 2 storage compartments either side of the main boot floor. So all in all, it might not be quite so big as a Skoda Enyaq's boot, but it is really practical, certainly. It's a shame though that there isn't a front boot. Now, there are 3 models to choose from, called 35, 40 and 50. 35 gets a 52 kilowatt-hour battery, 208 mile range and a 168 brake horsepower electric motor. 40 bumps that up to a 77 kilowatt-hour battery, 316 mile range and 201 brake horsepower electric motor. Then at the top of the lineup, the 50 has the same battery as the 40, but with an extra electric motor on the front axle. So it's 4-wheel drive and boosts power to 295 brake horsepower, but that does also reduce the range to 298 miles. We're driving the 40 model, which is that one in the middle that gets a single electric motor driving the rear wheels, and it does 0 to 62 miles per hour in 8.5 seconds, which is quick, but it's not rapid by electric car standards. It's certainly quick enough for what you're going to be doing in this car though. Motorways, around town, there's definitely plenty of pace on offer. And it also looks like this 40 model is probably going to be the pick of the lineup, at least on paper. We haven't driven the 30 or the 50, but with the 30, you probably want more range from your electric car than what's offered in that model. And with the 50, you really want to be spending more money to get all-wheel drive, an extra motor, and a bit less range. The 40 definitely looks like it will be the pick of the range there. Now, the pace might not stand out particularly in the electric car class with the Q4 e-tron, but the ride actually does. Admittedly, we're driving a model which has got the optional adaptive suspension, which is a £950 extra. But with it fitted, this is a pretty comfortable car, especially by electric car standards. It's nicely cushioned, it's well controlled, it's definitely right up there with the best riding electric cars. Dynamically, the Q4 e-tron is okay. It doesn't feel like a particularly agile thing, but then it's a relatively tall SUV. So yes, it does lean a bit in the corners, but the steering is pretty accurate. It's fairly nicely weighted. So compared to the Enyaq, the ID4, it's certainly as good to drive as them, if not actually a little bit better. We have conducted a real-world range test of the Q4 e-tron and 9 other electric cars. You can watch our full results by clicking on the link at the top of your screen there. And the 40 version of the Q4, which we used in that test, covered 266 miles on a full charge. That's in genuine real-world driving conditions, which is not quite the claimed 316 miles, but it's still very good indeed. When it comes to charging up, the smaller battery that you get in the 30 models can charge at a maximum speed of up to 100 kilowatts. But the bigger battery that you get in 40 and 50 models can charge at 125 kilowatts. So maximum charging speed in those big battery models gets you from 5 to 80% of a full charge in around 40 minutes. There are 4 trim levels to choose from, and even entry-level Sport is decently equipped. You get 19-inch alloys, 3-zone climate control, heated front seats and a Type 2 charging cable. Really, this trim level seems the best value in the lineup, because none of the kit available in S-Line, Edition 1 or Vorsprung trims are especially crucial. But should you buy one? Well, it's difficult to position the Q4 e-tron as a value option because it starts at £40,000. But this is the cheapest electric SUV that you can buy with a premium badge right now. And for your money, you get something that's comfortable, pretty nice inside, reasonably practical, and it does genuinely feel like a premium product. But just bear in mind that you can get a similar package for quite a few £1,000s less if you go for the Skoda Enyaq. For even more information on the Q4 e-tron, go to whatcar.com, where you can also see our list of amazing deals on every new car. If you've enjoyed this video, it'd be great if you gave it a like. Please tell us what you think of the Q4 e-tron in the comments below, and make sure you're subscribed as well, because we've got loads of video reviews coming out every week. Thanks for watching.